All right. Welcome everyone to our online session today, and it's a pleasure to have each of you joining us from different parts of the world. Uh, we have lined up 5 sessions with 5 amazing speakers for our guests. So we try to provide topics for you this month. And our session will be about Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, Copilot, and Copilot Studio, which we hope uplift your skills and also enjoy this session. So let me introduce myself. I'm Arash Aghajani. I'm Microsoft MVP and community leader from Vancouver, Canada. I'm so pleased to introduce our special guest today, Debolina Dasgupta. She is Microsoft expert and Power Platform developer based on Belgium, and she is in vacation, and we are fortunate to have her today in our session. We have an interesting topic: creating budget management system. It's a beautiful budget management system using Power Apps, SharePoint, and Power Automate. So before adding Debolina to the stage, I'm going to introduce a little about the Microsoft Learn community. So the Microsoft Learn community offers various ways for learners to connect with peers and experts to enhance their expertise and achieve career goals. It includes the Microsoft Learn Hub for updates and discussion, and learning rooms for direct engagement on a specific topic. Access the community touch through the Power provided links for more information and to join. So Power Platform Learner to Leader is one of Microsoft Learn learning rooms, which has more than 2,000 members. We are sharing the latest information about Power Platform in our learning room and also conduct this series of session every Saturday for Power Platform enthusiasts. So if you are not a member of our tech community, join through the link here, aka .ms/join PPLTL Power Platform Learner to Leader. So let's jump to the next slide, Code of Conduct. So Microsoft aims to empower everyone globally through knowledge sharing and events, ensuring a respectful and inclusive environment for all. Harassment or degrading behavior is not tolerated, and everyone is responsible for upholding these standards. The Code of Conduct encourages awareness, respect, openness, and understanding and kindness. So before we begin, a few important notes here. If you have any question during the presentation, feel free to put your question and type it in the comment box and the chat box. We will have a dedicated Q&A session towards at the end. And the session is being recorded for those who could not join us live and will be available shortly in Power Platform Learner to Leader YouTube channel. So without any delay, I will hand it over to you, Debolina, to start your presentation by introducing yourself. Hello.
Hi, Arush.
Thank
Nice to
you
meet
for
you back
joining us
again.
today. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So a stage is yours, so you can start by introducing yourself and start your presentation. I know that we have an exciting session today, so we have so many attendees here today. Join us to get most from your presentation and learn a lot around the Power Platform, Power Apps, and how we can build a beautiful Power Apps app through this session. Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's get started. So today we'll be learning about creating a beautiful budget management system with using SharePoint, Power Apps, and Power Automate. To introduce myself, I work in Belgium. I'm a part of the World Customs Organization. It's an international organization like WTO. And I work as a Microsoft expert. We work on various Power Apps and Power Platform applications along with SharePoint. Please feel free to, I have my LinkedIn and X, Twitter, and my blogs linked along with my profile. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions going forward or if you want to connect for something. So let's get started with our session. So before we get started, let's understand what are we going to discuss today. The first topic is whenever we start with an application, I personally prefer learning about what the application is all about. What's the business problem that we are trying to solve? So we start with the business problem and then we work together to define how the interface will look like. We'll work on something like color coding, making sure that some things are more interactive, easy to understand, and people feel happy when they are using your application. We'll also discuss about content approval process and SharePoint so that you can use SharePoint features to add approval process in your application without doing too much of coding. And also, we'll discuss about summarizing data using XML that will make your Power Automate processes very fast. And finally, instead of using Power BI, we'll use charts.io to create quick charts in your Power Apps itself. So let's get moving. Firstly, what is a budget management? Whenever you're working towards for an organization, you would always define your budget. It's about planning that how much amount of money is required for different things. It's also about monitoring if the total budget is exceeding the amount of your requirement. And it's also about controlling to understand if everything is under control. So to create an application which will help you with the budget management, you need to understand what problem it solves. So if you're an organization, say like specifically for our organization, as a part of IT services, we charge other businesses the cost of IT service. So we would have our budget and different services will request us to provide some IT services. So we will be adding the cost to that. And this process needs to be streamlined. So if someone requests, we would like to have an approval process in place. We would also like to make sure that at the end of the day, we know how much has been used, what the entire dashboard looks like how much amount has been spent on different categories, and these kind of information. So having said that, let's jump directly into our application. So for this, I created a mobile-based Power Apps, and I'll just share my screen and I'll show you live how the application actually looks like and works. So give me a second to share my screen. So this is my application, and let me go through the application and show you how it actually looks like, and then we can come back and understand how each and every component is created. So this is our budget application. It has a list of all the items that has been requested by different people for this particular project. And it also has different categories. So if you move from one set of categories to another, it shows the different items related to that particular categories. Now, if I click on any one of the item, you'll be able to see that this has all the details about that particular item. Also, it mentions that what status that application is. So it shows that someone has created a budget request, the approval is completed, and right now the entire request has already been approved. If we take a step back and look at something which is pending, you'll be able to see that it has only been in the step 2. So the approval is still in progress and it has still not been approved. And additionally, I created a create page. So if I click on this plus, you'll be able to see that you are still in step 1, and you can go ahead and add the title, date, amount, category, and that is how your entire application looks like. Now, if you want to get started on creating a Power App, the first thing that you're going to do is to go to make.powerapps.com. So once you are there, you have a lot of options and different ways to create a Power App. One of my most favorite ways to create a Power App is to actually go and write down what exactly the kind of app you would like to create here in this box. And with the help of Copilot, Power Apps automatically generates that applications for you. So it will create a 3-page application which will define what this entire application is trying to do. Alternatively, you can actually click on create, and that allows you to choose your data source first. So say you are creating an application which has Dataverse or Excel or SharePoint as the backend list, and you choose one of the options, you'll be able to create a 3-page create, edit, update, delete based option application using Power Apps, which will be automatically generated for you. All you need to do is to select the SharePoint connection and the list, and the entire application is generated for you. For our particular application, personally, I find it easier to create a blank app so that we can just start from the scratch and then we can design things accordingly. So coming back to our application, let's go through the different components which builds up our particular screen. So for this particular screen, I added a background by using I added a container and then I added a background. So then I defined this particular gallery. As you know, if you add a gallery, it will not look very nice. To make a gallery look nicer, you can add a I added a HTML text. This is a HTML text box, as you can see here. And in that HTML text box, I defined a HTML div. So where I added a shadow, box shadow, and I added a border radius to make it looks nicer and prettier as a part of the next steps, and then I rearranged everything inside. However, you should also know that right now there is an option where you can select one of the boxes, and if you right click, you will be able to see the code view for that particular block. This process is very easy because if you're trying to copy an app or if you're trying to create a control that you have already done, you can either copy paste the code or you can easily write or change things here. This is something very new and it has been very useful for me. So for this particular page, the components that I used are gallery, and then I have a tab control on the top. In the tab control, I have defined the different criterias which will separate things for my particular gallery. At this point of time, we can actually step back and take a look at what our database looks like, because we need to know what is the back end or how the data is arranged to understand where it is being saved, how it is being saved, and how everything works. So to do that, we can look at the expense tracker. In the expense tracker, I've created a list which has a list of items that people might be requesting for, a date, a certain amount. And here I defined different categories. Like for us, it will be chapter 2, chapter 5. Other people might have different categories for their different kinds of expenses. And this actually helped me to create this. This actually helped me to define the categories on the top by created it as a tab list. So in the tab list, I defined the different categories there based on the choices that were available in the category column. So the category column here, if you take a look at it, it's actually a choice column. So I have put 3 choices, and here for the items, I have taken all the 3 choices and put it here. Since it's not hard coded, if you add more categories, this automatically increases in the number of items. And now, to make sure that our gallery shows only the item that has been selected, we use the filter function of gallery on items, and I fetched all the items from expense tracker, and then I put a condition saying that the category value should be equal to the tab list item that has been selected. Additionally, you can also add options for search. You can also add options for ascending or a descending order of items, however you would love to have it. So once our UI is done, the next things that we can look at is that there are here, if you look the approved option, I can make it a little bit larger. If you look at the approved option, it looks green, and the pending, it looks orange. To create this option, we use the text. This displays the text of the approval status for that particular item. To define the approval process, I have used the content approval status option in SharePoint lists. So if you go to the SharePoint list and look at the list settings, you would be able to see one of the options in the versioning settings, which is called a content approval for submitted items. So that means that this is one. So once you have created an item in the budget request, you would like to send it to someone for an approval process. The approval process can be done in a couple of different ways. One of the ways is that you can send approval requests just directly from your Power Automate. But if you use the content approval option or the versioning settings of SharePoint list, that makes a lot of things easier. That means if the item has not been approved and I'm just a member of the site, I'll not be able to see the items which are in draft for other people. So I'll be able to see my draft items and I'll be able to see my approved items. So unless I'm one of the author, I'm the approver, I'll not be able to see the draft items for other people. So that kind of makes things easier to define the approval status. So for versioning settings, I created this approval settings. And once you click OK on the expense tracker, if you want to select any of the items, you can actually see the status. So automatically the approval status column is added to the list. And once it's already there, you can actually select any of the items, go on the triple dots, and you can define if you want to approve the item, reject the item, and you want it to be pending. Say I want it to be approved as well. So you can just go ahead and approve any of the items. Another advantage of using the content approval status of SharePoint lists is that if you go back to your app, and as you can see, this item C is already approved, I can actually go inside and look at the different steps, and I can actually go here and oops. So let me go back to the category. Let me go here. Okay, somehow it doesn't show. Anyway, I think I'll go ahead and show you one more thing here. If you look at the text here, this particular text looks green. To define this text as green, I can actually go here and go to the option called color, and I can choose what kind of color it will show based on the content approval status. So if the status is approved, it shows a green color. If it's pending, it shows an orange, and otherwise it shows a red color. I did something similar for the SVG. For the SVG images in this page as well. As you can see, if the budget request is, if it's on the step 1, it shows as red, orange, and it shows purple and blue. But the next one, since it's not in the second step, it shows gray. To do this part, we used something called the SVG image. SVG image is different than PNG or JPEG image, because with an SVG, you can actually get a piece of code. And since you have a code, you have an option to put a if-else condition for this particular piece of code. So to find the SVG file, you just Google it. There are a lot of options available online, and most of them are free. So you can just grab those. And to add a SVG file here, you need to add an image control. And once you add an image control, you need to use this particular line, the data::image/svg plus XML. And then you add encode URL. And then you just paste your SVG file in double quotes. However, to make sure that we have the condition available, what I did was, for this particular one, I defined a condition that if the form mode is edit, and then it takes it as this color. If it is otherwise, it takes it as this color. And that is used as a condition for filling this particular option. Similarly, for the pending, like I said, it's the uses the color option. Now, if we go back to our presentation once, so we discussed about the user interface. And yes, so the application that you create in Power Apps can be used anywhere. You can add it as a part of your SharePoint page, you can add it in Teams, you can share it as a mobile app, and a lot of other ways. This is the backend that I already explained. We defined the different color coding options, and this is the content approval process that we spoke about. So, which is something very useful, and especially if you're working not only with lists, if you're working with documents as well, this is a very good way of using approval process. You can also link it with your Power Automate workflows so that it automatically sends a email or a notification, and then you can just change the approval status. Okay, so now we move on to something different. Once you have created all these items, you have added all the different categories, and you have added different options for people to add different requests that they want for their budget. You would like to use that data somehow in some important ways, right? Because unless the data is being used somewhere, it's not worth. So to use the data, first you would like to summarize. You would like to probably see that how much category A has, how much category B has, and how much category C has. And generally, at least for our organization, because we do have a lot of data, we generally run a process to do all the calculation and put it in a separate list, so that later when you are generating a dashboard, or you're generating something from that data, the generation is very fast, so you don't have to sit and calculate everything. Now, let me share my screen again. I think I'm already sharing my screen. So if we go back to our backend, you can see that for different categories, there is different amount. If I want to summarize, the most common way of summarizing is to create two different loops, check the category, and keep on adding it, each item one after another. So if category C has laptop and coding bootcamp, I'll add the amount, and then I'll again add another amount. So that way, your process flow is going to become extremely huge, and you will be adding a lot of items. However, there is a simpler way. The simpler way uses XML. It has a little bit of a learning curve, or if you are a very old school developer who used to work with XML and XLT long time back, this is something that you're going to enjoy a lot. So what we did differently here is that I got all the items from my expense tracker list. I selected the value for the category value from this particular set of items. Then from those category values, because right now, once I select, that will have the duplicate values of all the categories, right? So I'll need to have the distinct number of categories, how many categories are existing. To do that, I use a function called union. If you do union of the same item again, it will only select the common items. So that kind of gives you a distinct set of categories, and I'm returning it as a type of an array. Now, to add the sum, I use a function called AutoSum, and here, based on each category. So if you're using the normal way, so for each category, you would have a loop, and then you would have another loop which will go through all the items in the category and keep on adding this. I'm removing that extra amount of loop. So I loop through all the categories. I use a filter array. So I filter if the category is equal to the current item, then I compose a function. So I create it as a I create all the values as a JSON, and then using the XPath function, I grab the output by using the root. This is the root. This is the number, and amount. Amount is the one which is here. So it grabs all the amounts, creates a sum automatically based on that particular category, and then all I need to do is to get my list, which will have my summary. So I'll go here and to my site content, and I'll go to my summarizing expense list. And here it will automatically keep on updating. So if here I created a condition that if that category already exists, it doesn't exist, it creates an item. If the category already exists, it just updates that particular item. This way, the entire summary becomes a very short calculation, especially when you are using the XPath function. That makes everything easier and shorter. So now comes the main and the next interesting part. So once you have already created a list of all the items, the next option is to create a beautiful and a nice looking charts and graphs. One of the most ways you can use is to use a Power BI dashboard. You can just put all the data in Power BI. It's a very good, powerful, strong engine. It gets all the data and it creates different things for you. However, you can actually use something like charts.io. So what this does is it creates a chart very easily, and you don't have to because with Power BI, sometimes there are issues regarding the licenses and the license costs and all the other options. But this allows you to add your very simple JavaScript charts very easily in your application. So how do we do that? To do that, you actually have to, let me show you the dashboard first, and then we can take it from there. So I kept the dashboard very simple. I defined what the categories were and what's the amount, and I took the first top 5 most expensive requests for this particular year, and I displayed it there. So to do that, you have to go to charts.io. You add an image. So you add an image control. Once you are done by adding an image control, you can go to this URL, the quickcharts.io/chart. So let me open the URL for us. Oops. And if you want to create a chart, it's very easy to do using the quick charts, because here you can define what kind of chart you want. So what I did was I went to the chart gallery. I chose the kind of chart that I want. So it has a lot of options. You can just choose whichever one you like. And say we are working with a donut chart. So to use a donut chart, you can just, you have to use this particular JSON. To use this particular JSON, and it has a lot of options. You can change the background colors, you can change the labels, you can define what the labels will look like. You have an options to add any kind of settings or anything that you want to add on the top. So I took this entire JSON from chart.io, and I added an image control. So in the image control, you have to again use the URL, and then you use encode URL. And so inside encode URL, you can see it's the same JSON that I was using there. So you add the JSON, you can add the data, which will be the data that I got from our summarize expenses. So it's here. And once I get the data and I can add it, I get the amount column from there, and I define the different colors that it should look like. You can change the data set. For the label, I also got the label from the summarize expense. I created the title. I took the title column from there and I added it as one of the labels. And you also have an option to create the text. So it says expense by categories, and I've added it as a donut chart. So then you can see it automatically uses this particular chart. For the top 5 items, I used the data table. It is also something new that comes up with your new SharePoint, new Power Apps options. And what I did was I created a sort based on the descending, and I took the first 5 items of all the top categories for which whatever the amount is being spent, and that allowed me to create this entire chart for this particular application. So if we go back to our session, yes, that kinds of ends all the items that I wanted to discuss. If you have any more questions, I'll be happy to answer, or if there is any topic you would like me to go through all over again, something that we can discuss more.
Thank you so much. So it was great presentation. So I'm seeing that you cover actually everything in the Power Apps development. So for building a simple or actually a little complex app, because I saw that you used different important things in your app. It was the gallery that we are
Yes.
commonly use the gallery for every app, and you use the HTML text control to
Yes.
make your gallery beautiful and beautify your gallery. And it was SVG, how we can use the SVG image in our Power Apps app. So it was great. And also how did you use the XPath function and expression in the Power Automate? It was another great things in your app. And also the quick chart, that I use the quick chart in my app as well. So it's a great chart builder. And yeah, it was great. So actually it was a combination of using the Power Apps, Power Automate, and SharePoint capabilities, and in one app. So sometimes we are using the Dataverse as a data source, and sometimes we are using the SharePoint. So SharePoint is most popular in the organization because we are entering the data, and storing data lists in the list, and in the SharePoint list, and it's pretty easy than the Dataverse. So also yeah, all good. So I like the presentation. Thank you so much for presenting this and creating this amazing app. And hopefully our participants actually like that. And if you have any question, we have more time, so if you have any question, put in the chat. And also Debolina actually is here to answer your question or show you any things that you would like. So I think it might be interested for our attendees, how you make the hover in your app. So when you hover your mouse in the gallery, so it will be bold, it's a different view there. So if you would like, you can also explain this here. Also the bottom navigation. So you have a
Yep.
button menu, home button, report button. Can you a little explain those?
Yes. So I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Yes. So as a part of an application, there are so each of the items in this application has different options So if you select one, it goes ahead and makes it like if you hover on it, it becomes bolder, and it makes it looks different. So like Arish mentioned, I used the HTML text for creating the style for the div, and for each item on the gallery you have an option, you have a lot of options to select what kind of options you want to do here. So say you want to make sure that when you are moving from one part to another, there is a option for transition, like how you would like to have the transition. And there are also other options, like you want to for the entire gallery, say for the gallery, do you want to show a scroll bar or do you don't want to show a scroll bar? So if you select one particular item in the gallery, it also comes with a lot of options. So here you would have an option to define how you want this entire thing to be presented, and on select whether how do you want it to be on select, do you want it to pop up or you want to change something, and these options are also there. I also used tab control, which is also something new which was recently released as a part of the Power Apps changes.
It's a modern
And
control.
as one of the modern controls, right?
Right. Yeah.
And all the modern controls are pretty cool because the buttons and everything looks very nice. So this also allows you to make a very quick tab control, and like I mentioned, it's automatically taking all the data from the category instead of us hard coding it, which is very cool, because that way if I add a new category tomorrow, it automatically takes it from there and the entire application continues working. And additionally for this, I added a plus icon along with the button. So any application will have all the different controls that is already present. So because it's a mobile app and most of the mobile apps have navigation at the bottom, so I wanted to use the navigation at the bottom. I made this image, this little plus icon here pop up with the help of I used a container, and I designed the container to look circle by adding a border radius. And then I added a little icon and the inside, and which helped me to put that little red color and the plus there, which works as a very nice icon to show that this is popping out and this is just for create. And then I added the little icons at the bottom, which is one for user details, and this is the one for the dashboard. I don't think I've linked it here, but you can just go ahead and select the screen that is present for that particular dashboard, and it will automatically navigate to that particular screen.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it was I think it might be or actually attendees' question. So I asked this as we have more time here to wrap up our session. Okay, thank you so much, Debolina. Thank you everyone to joining us today, and it was great things that we learned today from Debolina, and hopefully we have Debolina with another app in the future session, and next month or the following months after. So yeah, that's it, and have a great day. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend. Actually, today is a Saturday. Most of
Yes.
people, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Have a good day. Bye.